Welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to preview the Eels for 2025 NRL SuperCoach purposes. The Eels are a pretty interesting team this year, particularly given they've got the new coach there with Jason Riles. I guess has been highly touted as an assistant for years. So super interested to see how he goes as the main man. Along with that, I guess as well how he shakes up the Eels, who have probably been a little bit underwhelming in recent times. So starting at the fullback position, which probably is the most intriguing in terms of Parramatta, having ousted Clint Gutherson, Isaiah Iongi is the sort of projected round one starter. They brought him over from Penrith, where he's stuck obviously behind Dylan Edwards. Dane Laurie was in the conversation as well for fullback. So giving him an opportunity here. You can see with his ownership there, 51% owned. And that will include myself once I relock in my team after all this. I think he is a great option to start the season. Interestingly, as a backup option, Joash Papali'i. So was at the Bulldogs last year, and as a Bulldogs fan, I was sad to see him go. He definitely has potential, but spent some time in reserve grade at fullback, and hopefully build himself up from there in case of emergency where Iongi is potentially injured or out, I suppose. I suppose the other option they do have as a fullback, or a couple options, appear in their centre wing line. So Zach Lomax is the big recruit over from the Dragons. Sounds like he is going to take the goal kicking, which is obviously nice for his SuperCoach output. But sounds like part of the reason why he moved is he's desperate to play centre. Where he doesn't score as well in SuperCoach just because he's not on the end of as many tries. So even if he puts on try assists, you don't get as many points for that. Josh Adokar is the other big recruit over from the Dogs. We know what he is capable of. He is, a flex type option. Can go boom, but can also go bust. And the Eels will definitely, use his energy on and off the field to help them out this year. Will Penasini is always a nice solid option, and will have a bit of a run at some point, no doubt. But definitely not one you need to worry about not starting. And Bailey Simonson. So I think Lomax or Simonson, could potentially end up at fullback if things don't quite go right with the young guy. Zach Lomax at fullback would be pretty interesting for SuperCoach. But I think, that's the way the back five is going to line up to start. They've also got Sean Russell, who, is serviceable. Jake Tungo, who got a couple of games last year and looked okay in patches. And then after that, a couple of cheapies. Sam Rani's another one that's come over from the Bulldogs, looking for an opportunity. The halves, Brown and Moses, we know what they're all about. Moses without the goal kicking is probably less SuperCoach relevant nowadays. But Dylan Brown, given they've still got the dual position status, is super handy. And at 650, is cheaper than what he has been previously. So I have had Dylan Brown in my team throughout the preseason. He's currently not in, but I could see a world where he does end up somewhere in my starting team. So I wouldn't begrudge anyone bringing him in. In terms of backups, looks like they've got Dean Hawkins from the Rabbitohs previously to cover. In the instance that maybe Moses plays Origin again, but that's only on the provision that Cleary is injured again. So in the forwards, I guess some interesting talking points. The two hookers, does Rolls go with an 80-minute hooker, or do they continue the job share? Um, Even if one's locked in at 80, do you trust that? It's hard. We've been burnt by both of them in the past, looking like great prospects. Um, so probably down the pecking order in terms of cheap hookers going into this year. Um, but as I said, if one of them establishes themselves as an 80-minute guy, are you brave enough to get on? The front row is looking a little bit thin. Um, Only 4 players listed at front row for Supercoach. So you imagine Paulo and Offa Hengawe would start. Greg probably locks up a bench spot. Um, we have seen in the past when he's got a starting spot that he has performed above that 232 price point, uh, but it hasn't been for a sustained period of time. So um, again, if you're looking for a cheap front rower to fill out your bench, I think Greg is a viable option. There might be slightly better options though. But probably the most interesting for Supercoach, other than Iongi obviously at the back, is the second row. So in terms of the setup, in terms of who's on field, who's on bench, um, it's kind of anyone's guess. They have a lot of options. I couldn't even fit Moretti, Katoga, Dory in the squad. Um, so I think with Sean Lane being out injured from memory, I've sort of suggested that the starting back row could be Cartwright, Madison, Hopgood. I might just be choosing the 3 most Supercoach relevant players of past years. Um, but that they've all proven themselves to different degrees in the past. Um, I guess Madison has probably become a bigger body middle type forward. Um, so where do they all fit? On the bench, as I said, they've got Sean Lane, who they do like on the edge. Jack Williams has come across from the Sharks, so looking for some more game time. So does he find his way into the starting team? Kalma Tuolangi as well, as there's a lot of people suggesting he would start. So it could even look like Tuolangi on field, Madison on the bench. The other option that you might not see at the top there, but Charlie Geimer, there's been a bit of chat about his been impressing in the off season. So the second row could look like this going into round one. Um, yeah, so if it did, Charlie Geimer starting at 230k, yes please. But yeah, other than that, I think Supercoach relevant options is obviously Iongi, if you like that. Obviously, if you're going the triple fullback start, your 3 gun fullbacks, um, then obviously you've got to fade Iongi. Dylan Brown is obviously a great option in the halves to start the season. And then, as I said, if Geimer gets the start, or if Greg gets a start potentially, you could look at them as cheap bench options in the forwards. But we'll wrap the video up there. So as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you're enjoying the team by team previews and the Supercoach content in general. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel, and other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.